Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that can literally turn a homeowner's world upside down: water damage. We're going to break down what's actually happening when water gets into your house, why every single second matters, and how you can grab control of a situation that feels totally out of control. Let's get right into it.
So, just imagine this for a second. It's the middle of the night. You hear a sound you hope you never hear, that dreaded drip, drip, drip. Or maybe it's even worse. You get out of bed and your feet hit a freezing, wet floor. The basement's flooded. That feeling is just pure panic, right? But here's the thing. Knowing what's going on in those first few moments is actually your best weapon. Because when we're talking about water damage, time is not on your side. In fact, it's your biggest enemy. The clock starts ticking the instant that water shows up where it's not supposed to be. And believe me, the stakes just get higher and higher with every minute that goes by.
So, why do people call water a home's worst enemy? Well, it really boils down to two things: how fast it moves and how thoroughly it soaks into everything. This quote really just hits the nail on the head. Water does not wait around. It's this incredibly destructive force that just immediately starts seeping into everything it touches. We're talking floors, walls, insulation, your furniture, you name it.
48 hours. Now, this isn't some random number we pulled out of a hat. It's a biological deadline. After just 2 days of something being wet, mold goes from being a possibility to being pretty much a sure thing. Little colonies start to form, and suddenly, your water problem has turned into a serious health problem. Okay, to really see how this all plays out in the real world, let's take a look at a case study from Waukegan, Illinois. The city's unique location and its infrastructure kind of create a perfect storm for water damage. And it really shows us just how vulnerable a home can be.
You know, being right there on Lake Michigan creates what you could call a triple threat. First, you get these massive snowfalls that just pile up on roofs, waiting to melt. Then, boom, the spring thaw hits, and all that water gets released at once. And just to make things worse, the high humidity in the air makes it incredibly hard for a soaked house to ever really dry out on its own. And that's just what's happening above ground. Below ground, the soil is full of clay, which basically acts like a big wet sponge, holding water right up against the home's foundation. The ground freezes, then thaws, over and over, creating tiny cracks. And then when a heavy rain comes, the older sewer systems just can't handle it, and they back up, forcing water right into basements. It's like an attack from every direction. All right, so the water's in. Now let's get a look at just how insanely fast the damage escalates. We're talking about a timeline that moves from minutes to hours to days, and each stage brings a whole new level of destruction. You know, within minutes, it might just look like a mess. But within hours, the damage becomes structural. Materials swell up, they start to warp. By that 48-hour mark we talked about, mold is a very real problem. And if it goes on for weeks, you're looking at serious rot and even potential biohazards. This is exactly why that initial response is so critical. Okay, so we've seen how bad the problem can get. Let's flip the script and talk about the solution. How do professionals actually fight back against this crazy fast destruction? Well, it's not chaos. It's a very methodical, three-phase process that's designed to stop the damage in its tracks and stabilize your home. The easiest way to think about it is like this. First, you stop the bleeding with extraction. Then you treat the wound with some very scientific drying. And finally, you do the reconstructive surgery to put everything back the way it was. Phase 1 is all about speed and raw power. This is not your little shop vac from the garage, okay? We are talking about industrial, truck-mounted machines that can pull hundreds of gallons of water out of a house every single hour. The whole goal is just to get the bulk of that water out as fast as humanly possible before it can soak any deeper. Now, here's the most important thing to get about Phase 2. Feeling dry to the touch means absolutely nothing. This is where the science really kicks in. Professionals use these huge, powerful air movers and dehumidifiers to literally pull moisture out of the bones of the house. The drywall, the wood studs, the subfloors. They use tools like thermal cameras and moisture meters to hunt down every last hidden pocket of dampness to make sure the job is actually truly done. And only when every single scientific measurement confirms the structure is 100% dry, that's when Phase 3 can start. This is the rebuilding part, replacing whatever couldn't be saved. New drywall goes up, new floors go down, and a fresh coat of paint makes it look like the disaster never even happened. So, following a professional process is huge, but you also have to understand the language of the industry and, of course, your insurance policy. This next part is all about those practical details that can honestly make or break your entire recovery. Let's clear up two terms that people mix up all the time: mitigation and restoration. So mitigation is the emergency response. Think of it like the paramedics showing up to stop the bleeding. Restoration is the rebuilding that happens after the emergency is over. That's the team of surgeons putting things back together. Knowing the difference really helps you understand the whole journey. So you'll probably hear this term thrown around a lot when you're looking for a restoration company, IICRC certified. But what does that alphabet soup actually stand for? And more importantly, why should you even care? Okay, so the IICRC is basically the organization that writes the official rulebook for the entire restoration industry. When a technician is certified, it means they've been trained to follow these proven, science-based standards. It's your guarantee that they're not just guessing or winging it, they are following a very specific protocol that insurance companies recognize and, frankly, expect. It's also incredibly important to understand that not all water is the same. Category 3, or black water, is the really nasty stuff. This is water from a sewer backup or a river flood, and it is packed with bacteria, viruses, and all sorts of things you do not want in your house. If you have black water, the rules change completely. For safety, anything porous it touches, carpet, drywall, insulation, it has to be torn out and disposed of. No exceptions. And that brings us to the big insurance puzzle. See the pattern here? Policies almost always cover things that are sudden and accidental, like a pipe that bursts out of nowhere. What they usually don't cover is gradual damage from a slow leak you should have fixed, and, this is a big one, they don't cover flooding from rising water like a river overflowing. That requires a totally separate flood policy. And sewer backup? That's another one that's usually an extra add-on you have to specifically ask for. So, after looking at the threat, the process, and all the practical stuff, let's bring it all home. The whole goal here is to move from that moment of total panic to a feeling of control, armed with the right knowledge. Look, if you remember nothing else, remember this. 1. Act fast. Time is absolutely everything. 2. Don't trust your hands, trust the machines. Real dryness is measured. It's not something you can just feel. 3. Read your insurance policy before you need it. Seriously. And 4. Having a certified, by-the-book process turns a complete disaster into a project you can actually manage. We'll leave you with this thought. For most of us, our home is the single biggest investment we'll ever make. Knowing how to protect it from its most common and most destructive enemy isn't just helpful trivia. It's absolutely essential. So the real question is, are you prepared?